July 19th, 2018. Thought you might want to hear this.
In 1940, the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. decided that Hitler was going to lose the war, and that they should start preparing for the next empire, the American Empire. And it was to comprise all of the area that Hitler had coveted, including the United Kingdom, all of North America, New Zealand, Australia, and much of the southeast Pacific Rim. And they've been working at it ever since. They have linked forces with other organizations since, including the Bilderbergers, the post-war organization in Europe, which is the most secretive and one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful organization in the world today. And then the third, the Trilateral Commission, which was formed after Japan began its ascendancy. And these three have been working together, and I call them in my books the Three Sisters. They are the sort of the root of what I now call cabal, and other people call it the cabal as well. The cabal comprises the banking cartel, the oil cartel, the big transnational corporations, the intelligence agencies, many of them, but including the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and a couple of foreign ones, the MI6 from the UK and the Mossad from Israel, and a huge slice of the American military. And they are the cabal, and they have been running the United States for the last half century, to the point where presidents have been little more than talking heads, and the Congress hasn't had a clue as to what was going on. After World War II, there was an operation called Operation Paperclip, which was approved by President Truman to bring Nazi scientists to the United States to help, presumably, in the Cold War that would ensue. President Truman agreed on the condition that none of the scientists were to have been active members of the Nazi Party. The armed forces who were doing the invitation, the Army in particular, paid no attention to the President. As a former Minister of National Defense, I know how that works. And they recruited the ones they wanted. They gave them new names, new histories, and high-ranking jobs in the United States in the military and civil establishments. They were working on missiles and new weapon systems of various kinds. Well, then after the two crashes at Roswell, two UFO crashes at Roswell on July the 4th, 1947, one of the machines was sufficiently intact to be recovered, and they began back engineering that. Before long, they moved the operation to Nevada. And the president then was Eisenhower, and he wanted to know what they were doing out there. They wouldn't tell him. So he threatened to send in the First Army from Colorado. They capitulated and allowed him to send 4 trusted members of the CIA to visit Colorado and see what was going on. Well, what was going on was exactly what they really expected, and that is the back engineering of one of the vehicles from the Roswell area. I don't think there's been a president since, well, actually Truman, who has really been in the loop, totally. President Eisenhower vented his frustration in his final speech to the American people at the time he was retiring from public life. He said, beware of the military-industrial complex. And the problem is we have paid no attention to him. An eyewitness who had worked in the company of President Eisenhower said what he was really concerned about was that the ET file had fallen into the wrong hands. And that's what he was really concerned about, and I wish he had said it. But that's, I guess, when the cover-up really got underway in earnest. Well, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. This cabal, their end game, is a world government. They're calling it a New World Order, which is unelected and accountable only to them. That's what they're doing. And they're well on the road to do it. And you know, they were smart. They said, we won't do what Hitler did and try to take over all this world, these countries by military means. We will do it by using our brains and using a monetary system to crush the various countries to the point where the people will be glad to accept a military government. And we will use trade agreements, which are not really trade agreements, but which are, in effect, transfers of power from the people, the elected people, to the banking cartel and the transnational corporations. And they put a thing in the trade agreements which is called the Dispute Settlement Mechanism. And it actually works this way, that if any government, like a provincial government in Canada or a state government in the United States, does something that affects the profits or potential profits of a foreign company, they can sue the government of Canada for lost profits or even lost potential profits, if you believe. They have more rights in Canada than Canadian citizens, and of course it works the same way with the United States. It's wrong in principle. Two final words. The reason they don't want us to know what they're doing is because if too many of us knew what they were doing, they might not be able to get away with it. And the reason that you don't read about it is that if you get a copy of Daniel Esterlin's most recent book, he was the writer of The True Story of the Bilderberg Murder. There are several pages, chapter and verse, that show that every major news outlet in the English-speaking world is controlled by Bilderberger. Thank you very much.
Interesting, to say the least. Oh, I got sheetrock dust all over me. What does that mean for today? Honestly, what does that mean for today?
We became, alone among the animals, afraid of death and of future loss. And this was the start of a great tragedy and an even greater possibility. You see, when we become afraid of death, of injury and imprisonment, we become controllable and so valuable in a way that no other resource could ever be. The greatest resource for any human being to control is not natural resources or tools or animals or land, but other human beings. You can frighten an animal because animals are afraid of pain in the moment, but you cannot frighten an animal with the loss of liberty, with torture or imprisonment in the future, because animals have very little sense of tomorrow. You cannot threaten a cow with torture or a sheep with death. You cannot swing a sword at a tree and scream at it to produce more fruit, or hold a burning torch to a field and demand more wheat. You cannot get more eggs by threatening a hen, but you can get a man to give you his eggs by threatening him. This human farming has been the most profitable and destructive occupation throughout history, and it is now reaching its destructive climax. Human society cannot be rationally understood until it is seen for what it is: a series of farms where human farmers own human livestock. Some people get confused because governments provide healthcare and water and education and roads, and thus imagine that there is some benevolence at work. Nothing could be further from the reality. Farmers provide healthcare and irrigation and training to their livestock. Some people get confused because we are allowed certain liberties and thus imagine that our governments protect our freedoms. But farmers plant their crops a certain distance apart to increase their yields, and will allow certain animals larger stalls or fields if it means they would produce more meat and milk. In your country, your tax farm, your farmer grants you certain freedoms not because he cares about your liberties, but because he wants to increase his profits. Are you beginning to see the nature of the cage you were born into? There have been four major phases of human farming. The first phase in ancient Egypt was direct and brutal human compulsion. Human bodies were controlled, but the creative productivity of the human mind remained beyond the reach of the whip, the brand, the shackles. Slaves remained woefully unproductive and required enormous resources to control. The second phase was the Roman model, wherein slaves were granted some capacity for freedom, ingenuity, and creativity, which raised their productivity. This increased the wealth of Rome, and thus the tax income of the Roman government, and with this additional wealth Rome became an empire, destroying the economic freedoms that fed its power and collapsed. I'm sure that this does not seem entirely unfamiliar. After the collapse of Rome, the feudal model introduced the concept of livestock ownership and taxation. Instead of being directly owned, peasants farmed land that they could retain as long as they paid off the local warlords. This model eventually broke down due to the continual subdivision of productive land and was destroyed during the enclosure movement when land was consolidated, and hundreds of thousands of peasants were kicked off their ancestral lands because new farming techniques made larger farms more productive with fewer people. The increased productivity of the later Middle Ages created the excess food required for the expansion of towns and cities, which in turn gave rise to the modern democratic model of human ownership. As displaced peasants flooded into the cities, a huge stock of cheap human capital became available to the rising industrialists. And the ruling class of human farmers quickly realized that they could make more money by letting their livestock choose their own occupations. Under the democratic model, direct slave ownership has been replaced by the mafia model. The mafia rarely owns businesses directly, but rather sends thugs around once a month to steal from the business owners. You are now allowed to choose your own occupation, which raises your productivity, and thus the taxes you can pay to your masters. Value this time in my life, because this is time in my life to still have choices. And go by so fast. When you're a teenager, you can do anything you do. 20s, you're a lawyer. 30s, you raise a family, you make money, you think to yourself, I don't have any place. 40s, you grow a pot belly, you don't want to chin. The music starts to get too loud. One of your girlfriends tries to become your grandma. 50s, you have a minor surgery, you'll go with a procedure, which is a surgery. 60s, you have a major surgery, the music is still loud, but it doesn't matter, you're getting it anyway. 70s, you and the wife retire to Florida mail. So you can dinner 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have lunch around 10, breakfast night before. And most of the time wandering around malls, looking for coats, so you're muttering, the kids don't call, the kids don't call. The age will have a major stroke. You end up battling something making nurse, your wife can't stand, but you mom. Any questions? Your few freedoms are preserved because they are profitable to your owners. The great challenge of the democratic model is that increases in wealth and freedom threaten the farmers. The ruling classes initially profit from a relatively free market in capital and labor, but as their livestock become more used to their freedoms and grow wealth, they begin to question why they need rulers at all. Ow. Nobody said that keeping farming was easy. Keeping the taxed livestock securely in the compounds of the ruling classes is a three-phase process. The first is to indoctrinate the young through government, quote, education. As the well-democratic countries grew, government schools were universally inflicted in order to control the thoughts and souls of the livestock. The second phase is to turn citizens against each other through the creation of dependent livestock. It is very difficult to rule human beings directly through force, and where it can be achieved, it remains cripplingly unproductive, as can be seen in North Korea. Human beings do not breed well or produce efficiently in direct captivity. If human beings believe that they are free, then they will produce much more for their farmers. The best way to maintain this illusion of freedom is to put some of the livestock on the payroll of the farmer. Those cows that become dependent on the existing hierarchy will then attack any other cows who point out the violence, hypocrisy, and immorality of human ownership.
Officer's position ran face first on the floor with one officer near his head, a second near his back, and a third officer standing nearby. There appeared to be a breathing struggle. Then, a 2-year veteran BART officer stands, draws his weapon, and fires.
Freedom is slavery, and slavery is freedom. If you forget,
I just gotta say, that's so uncalled for. If the people do not stand up, one at a time, and together as a nation, that will continue to happen. The guy wasn't armed. He was obviously no threat with 5, 6 other cops on him. And when you let your emotions get in the way, and the rage, to where you can draw your gun on somebody unarmed and fire, you've just destroyed one of God's children. For what? That's the answer. For what? So you could write him a ticket, so you could throw him in jail, put him in another corporation. The jails are corporations. They need to make money. So it's in their best interest, the wardens, to keep them full. Full of, not the real criminals, some are, but many get the book thrown at them for nothing. I've been watching court case after court case after court case, and it is amazing to me to watch the judge that is supposed to be an unbiased party, so that you can get in there, get this problem resolved, pay the debt, pay the charge, discharge it, whatever you're going to do. But when people ask questions, they get thrown into contempt, thrown into a jail cell for asking a question. That is kidnapping. I don't care how you shake a stick at it. That judge It is not their courtroom. They may work there, they may be employed there by the state, by the county, but it is not their courtroom. It is the people's court, who provides the funds for the employment and for the structure. People have forgotten how these agencies actually even came into being. And they're all corrupt.
The cows protect each other. Whenever anybody brings up the reality of their situation, then you don't have to spend nearly as much controlling them directly. Those cows who become dependent upon still the largesse of the farmer will violently oppose any questioning of the virtue of human ownership. And the intellectual and artistic classes, always and forever dependent upon the farmers, will say to anyone who demands freedom from ownership, you will harm your fellow cows. The livestock are thus kept enclosed by shifting the moral responsibility for the destructiveness of the violent system to those who demand real freedom. They thus seek to invent continual external threats so that the frightened livestock cling to the protection of the farmers. This system of human farming is now nearing its end. The terrible tragedies of modern Western economic systems have occurred not in spite of, but because of past economic freedoms. The massive increases in Western wealth throughout the 19th century resulted from economic freedoms. And it was this very increase in wealth that fed the size and power of the state. Whenever the livestock become exponentially more productive, you get a corresponding increase in the number of farmers and their dependents. The growth of the state is always proportional to the preceding economic freedoms. Economic freedoms create wealth, and the wealth attracts more thieves and political parasites, whose greed then destroys the economic freedoms. In other words, freedom metastasizes the cancer of the state. The government that starts off the smallest will always end up the largest. This is why there can be no viable and sustainable alternative to a truly free and peaceful society. A society without political rulers, without human ownership, without the violence of taxation and statism. To be truly free is both very easy and very hard. We avoid the horror of our enslavement because it is so painful to see it directly. We dance around the endless violence of our dying system because we fear the attacks of our fellow livestock. But we can only be kept.
Every citizen is a Cesta K trust. Let's go back. Isn't really what I want, but see. The Emergency Banking Act 1933, passed by Congress on March 9, 1933, 3 days after FDR declared a nationwide bank holiday. All banks are closed. Combined with the Federal Reserve's commitment to supply unlimited amounts of currency to reopen the banks, created 100% deposit insurance, much to everyone's relief when the institutions reopened for business on March 13, 1933. Depositors stood in line to return their standard cash to neighborhood banks. Within 2 weeks, America had redeposited more than half of the currency that they had squirreled away before the bank's suspension. Stock market registered its approval as well on March 15, 1933, the first day of stock trading. After the extended closure of Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange recorded the largest one-day percentage price increase ever, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 8.26 points to close at 62.10, a gain of 15.34%. With the benefit of hindsight, the nationwide bank holiday and the Emergency Banking Act of March 1933 ended the bank runs that had plagued the Great Depression. I want to show you the actual act. That didn't do it. Bear with me. It states that all property, all mortgages, Google moves this stuff. Come on now. You need to look this stuff up. All of this, because the answers are in it. This is from Congress too. This is their intent. They took everybody's money. They took everybody's gold. There was, and still is, no lawful money. If this sounds odd to you, it sounded odd to me as well. But that doesn't change the fact that it is the law. If I can find exactly where it's at. It just came into my head, so I figured I'd try to show it. Let you know that you don't own anything, that the state owns it all. And we are just mere users of that. Let's see. I'll tell you who does a good job of this, and that is this guy. Your CUSIP number, that's the number that they trade. That's your ticker number. U.S. government trades your Social Security number and your birth certificate bond number on the stock market, and probably have billions of dollars in that. I suggest you guys look this guy up, Eon, and see what he has to say. He's really, really good at what he does. But everybody must tender payment of a debt this way, the court says.
Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents, this case is actually going to be interesting. So this is on video, and he asked them to vacate it with prejudice. Of course, they ignored it. Don't worry about whether our own personal booking and instrument that could be processed. You have to be able to read this to understand what it's saying. Now, pay attention. Additionally, although a check may be a negotiable instrument, even when not made payable to the bearer to the order, a bill is not a check because it's not drawn on the bank. So it doesn't need to be a check. There is no law requiring it to be a check. So a bill of exchange is not a check. They just told you that. So you document in your instruction that this is not a check, not equated to a check, not supposed to be a check. Okay? We also review the search.
If you don't know your legal definitions, you will get run over. I'm still learning them.
I told you that I'm not operating a business. I'm not conducting business at this time. Now, I gotta put in a key check, so it says, hey, boss, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Anyway, type into
Sure.
Google.
Right to travel.
Bank and credit clause. U period S period. The contract. Why corporate? Because this is a corporation. You follow me? It tells me license. That's why they give you a ticket for operating motor vehicle. People, orbit cannot be done on the square. You cannot orbit. You have to go to the other edge. Then how long does it take to get to the other edge? You know that we get to test the translation. We get to check about pass. Go look at the definition for expanse. Then they said it was without form. Thank you for listening. The letter I received back from the Treasury talking about this is akin to fraud. The courts have blah blah blah. The courts have not done anything. The courts don't get to determine whether or not something is fraud. That's not their job. It's a jury that gets to determine that. You notice all of this case law is just a judge making a determination, not a jury. It is a jury that's supposed to make determinations of facts and conclusions of law. Common law is already set in stone. They don't get to determine what the law is. The ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ladies and gentlemen, so you don't have an excuse, let me let you guys go. I hope this information.
Look up some Eon stuff. It will be amazing information that will help you and our people, the citizens. If you understand Admiralty law, common law, natural law, God's law, and then their laws, which their laws are statutes and codes. Statutes and codes do not trump laws. I'm not an attorney. I don't know any of this stuff. I can't advise you. I can't advise anybody. But I will tell you the answers are there. They are absolutely positively out there. But you need to know your information, because nobody's going to do it for you. Not in this world. Nobody is going to do it for you in this world. You have to do it for yourself. And God gives you power over all your enemies to tread on serpents and scorpions. Luke, I think it's chapter 10, 18, 19, somewhere in that. So that's it. This is short and sweet. Sorry about the end of it, but there you have it. See what's going on in your world today. It's important. You've got to stay in step with current events so you know what's up.